After our video discussing the fate of the Grey Jedi, both during and after Order 66, you all did a great job of discussing other non-Jedi and non-Sith entities within Star Wars lore. Although we've discussed the Light, Dark, and Grey Force organizations that competed with the Jedi and Sith, what we haven't looked at yet are Jedi Splinter factions and sects. We should first note that these Jedi Splinter factions comprise Jedi who split from the main order so they could practice their own philosophies that conflicted with the edicts of the order, or pursue goals that were otherwise rejected or not permitted by the High Council. Overall, I found 12 different Jedi Splinter factions that would break away from the main order, some where their differences were minor and others that were more extreme. But all 12 have in common the fact that they were recognized as separate factions from the main order. Because each different sect has so much interesting lore, instead of doing a video only discussing each faction for a minute, I thought we'd focus on all 12 individually, allowing us to look at each group more closely. Therefore, here in part 1, we'll start with probably my favorite Jedi sect, the Corellian Jedi. With that, I hope you enjoy this mini-series of Jedi Splinter factions and sects, beginning with the Karelian Jedi. To recruit new members, the Jedi Order would travel to member worlds of the Galactic Republic, searching for Force sensitives who they could bring into their ranks. Because the 5 inhabited worlds of the Corellian system had been members of the Republic since its inception, roughly 25,000 years before the Clone War, these core founders would become a hotspot of Jedi recruitment, particularly the planet that gave its name to the system, Corellia. Throughout the millennia, Corellia and its system would contribute a number of legendary Jedi to the Order, including Nija Halcyon and Thame Cerulean, the latter being the Master of Dooku. Like any other Jedi, these members from the Corellian system would learn to let go of their attachments to their homeworld and dedicate themselves to the Order and the Republic it served. However, millennia before the Clone War, prior to the Cold War in 3653 BBY, a schism within the Jedi Order acted as a catalyst for a significant number of Corellian-born Jedi to retreat to their homeworld of Corellia. Although they were still tied to the Jedi Order, they developed into a reclusive sect that would place a greater interest on the protection and prosperity of Corellia than that of the Galactic Republic. Over time, the Corellian Jedi would accept missions solely based within the Corellian sector. To carry out these missions and to practice their beliefs and customs, this Jedi sect would construct their own enclave known as the Green Jedi Enclave, based within Coronet City, the capital of the planet Corellia. Given their distance and independence from the Order's High Council still upon Coruscant, the Corellian Jedi would also develop their own customs that were restricted by the main Order. For example, they rejected the traditional robes typically worn by Jedi, instead adopting green robes, the color of the Corellian flag. These robes would serve as the basis for another label given to the Corellian Jedi, the Green Jedi. But it wasn't merely the color of their robes that distinguished the Corellian Jedi from the Order on Coruscant. They also permitted marriage among members within their faction. This would result in the creation of powerful bloodlines, which would further connect subsequent generations of Corellian Jedi to the faction upon their homeworld. One of the greatest tests for the Corellian Jedi would come during the Cold War, over 3,600 years before the Clone War. In the shadow of the Sith Empire's successful assault on Coruscant led by Darth Malgus, the Sith Empire and Galactic Republic entered into a peace agreement known as the Treaty of Coruscant, which significantly favored the Sith Empire. With their temple in ruin and the Galactic Senate placing blame for the Republic's downfall on the Jedi Order, the Jedi decided to delay the reconstruction of their temple and relocate to their ancient homeworld of Tython. However, the Corellian Jedi would regroup and rededicate themselves to Corellia, fortifying themselves within their enclave there. Unfortunately for the Corellian Jedi, the peace established through the Treaty of Coruscant wouldn't last, and roughly 12 years of peace were erased when the Sith Empire set their sights on Corellia itself. When the Sith Empire invaded in 3641 BBY, the Corellian Jedi bravely defended their homeworld, but eventually, the Enclave was sacked and the leader, along with the rest of its council, were killed. This would effectively annihilate the ranks of the faction, but it wouldn't see their complete demise. By the time of the new Sith Wars, roughly 1600 years later, the Corellian Jedi had once again risen to prominence, and when the Sith re-emerged to again threaten the Galactic Republic, the Corellian Jedi protected their home sector as they did centuries earlier. However, at this time, the concept of the Corellian Jedi was more prevalent among the Jedi. As the Republic continually failed to prevent large areas of space from falling to the Sith, numerous Jedi Knights decided to offer their assistance to threatened star systems and sectors. Although these Jedi weren't necessarily from the sectors they protected as the Corellian Jedi were, they still nonetheless came to adopt the title of Jedi Lord, being beloved by those they protected. By the end of the new Sith Wars, roughly 1,000 years before the Clone War, the Corellian Jedi were led by their own Jedi Lord who hailed from Corellia, Jedi Lord Barathon. When Jedi Lord Hoth rallied the Lords together to form the Army of Light to finally confront and destroy the Sith Brotherhood of Darkness, Jedi Lord Barathon answered the call, and he and his fellow Karelian Jedi traveled to the planet of Ruusan for a final showdown with the Brotherhood. The Karelian Jedi were instrumental in the Jedi and Republic victory at Ruusan, and ultimately in the new Sith Wars. But despite their actions, their long history as a splinter faction caused the Jedi High Council to view them as dissident Jedi. This was an era of great reform for the Jedi Order, instituting new codes that had to be followed, and with authority being given to the High Council to uphold the new edicts. Recognizing how they were seen, and with no intentions of giving up their traditions, the Corellian Jedi would return to their homeworld, leaving Coruscant and the Jedi there to the authority of the High Council. However, although the Corellian Jedi would be somewhat isolated from the main Jedi Order during these last centuries of the Republic before the rise of the Empire, the sect would offer some aid to the Republic and Jedi during the Clone War. In fact, the rift between the Corellian Jedi and the Jedi Order was remedied to such a degree that Corellian Jedi Thame Cerulean had a seat upon the High Council, and was well respected within the Order. But when the Separatist Crisis and ultimately the Clone War erupted, the true test of the Corellian Jedi was undertaken. Rather than defend and fight on the behalf of the Republic that they'd been isolated from for centuries, the Corellian Jedi declared their loyalties were with Corellia, choosing not to get involved in the rising galactic tensions. But despite this view from the greater part of the Corellian Jedi, there were some members of the faction who disagreed with the course of neutrality and isolation on Corellia. More than 20 Karelian Jedi chose to devote themselves to the Jedi High Council and traveled to Coruscant to join the main order. These Jedi would fight beside their brothers and sisters against the Separatists, taking on missions of varying importance. Although the Corellian Jedi owed no loyalty to the Republic and continued to remain independent from the main Jedi Order right up until the end of the Clone War, they were not spared from Sidious's Order 66 and the purge that the Sith waged against the Jedi. Many Corellian Jedi were hunted down by the forces of the Empire, and during Sidious's reign, the Splinter faction was annihilated. However, this was still not the end of the Corellian Jedi. Like those Jedi from the main order on Coruscant, there were some Corellian Jedi who survived the Purge, continuing on the legacy of the sect. Decades after the fall of Palpatine in the Battle of Coruscant, Corran Horn, the grandson of legendary Corellian Jedi Nija Halcyon who fought in the Clone War, took on the task of continuing the traditions and practices of the Corellian Jedi, ensuring the Splinter faction's long history was not extinguished. So there we have it, the history and traditions of the Corellian Jedi. We love making these videos, so why not subscribe for more fun Star Wars theories and discussions? Also, if you enjoyed the video, think about giving a like or leaving a comment. Or perhaps follow us on Twitter at SW Reading Club for updates regarding the channel. Or support the channel through Patreon for access to exclusive rewards and discussions. If not for me... for the Army of Light.